Alright, this is lesson 10, interpreting graphs of proportional relationships. This is the last section before we take our quiz. And the first example says Grandma's special cookies, chocolate chip cookies recipe, which yields 4 dozen cookies, calls for 3 cups of flour to make 4 dozen cookies. Use this information to complete the chart. Alright, so first of all, when we create our chart, we know that 3 cups of flour makes 4 dozen cookies. So 3 cups of flour, and we'll have 4 dozen cookies there. We multiply each of those by 2, we could get 6 cups of flour for 8 dozen cookies. And if we multiply both of those by 3, we'll get 9 cups of flour equals 12 cups of cookies. All right, is the number of cookies proportional to the amount of flour used? Well, in order to figure that out, we got to know the unit rate, or that's the same thing as the constant of proportionality, which is y over x. So that's the dependent over the independent variable. So we got to go back and figure out which one's dependent, which one's independent. So we can't make cookies without flour. So the number of dozens of cookies depends on how much flour we have. So that would be dependent and flour would be independent. So that's going to be the x the flour is, and the dependent will be the y, the number of dozens of cookies. So we're going to go y over x. So that's going to be k is equal to 4 over 3, and that's 4 cups of flour over 3 dozen cookies. And if we take 4 and divide it by 3, we get 1 1/3 cups. And then if we divide the 3 by 3, so we're dividing numerator and denominator by 3, we get 1 dozen cookies. So that's the unit rate. We really don't have to put it over 1 dozen. We can just say that's 1 1/3 cups per dozen. So there's our constant. Well, is it constant? Let's go back and see if these are proportional. So if they are, then that will be the constant of proportionality, or the unit rate, because all the unit rates will be the same. So we know that k is equal to 4/3. That's 1 1/3. So if we do 8 divided by 6, that would all be 1 2/6, which reduces to 1 1/3, because I can divide a 2 out of both of those. And so if I have 12 ninths, divide 12 by 9, you're going to get 1 group of 9, and you're going to have 3 left over, so that's 3 out of 9. So that's 1 1/3. So yes, it is proportional, because all the unit rates are equal. All right, we could have also taken our unit rate and multiplied it by each of the x's, because we also know y is equal to k times x. So we could have multiplied 3 times 1/3, 1 1/3, 6 times 1 1/3, and 9 times 1 1/3. And if we do that, we should get these numbers back again. Well, 3 times 1 1/3, 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 1/3. That's like dividing 3 by 3, so that's 1, and 1 plus 3 is 4. 6 times 1 is 6. 1/3 of 6 is 2, so 6 and 2 is 8. 9 times 1 is 9. 1/3 of 9 is 3, so 9 plus 3 is 12. So yep, that works. All right, so now we're going to graph the relationship. And so we know that the dependent variable is y, and that's the number of dozens of cookies. So this is the y. We're going to put dozen cookies. And the independent variable is x, which is the cups of flour. So this is going to be the x, and that's going to be cups of flour. Whoops, F-L-O-U-R. Sorry about that. All right, so we know that there is 3, 4. Okay, so that's 1 point. So the point 3, 4, if we go 1, let's see, I might have to go. How about we go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That'll fit them all in. For the cups of flour, and then we got to go to 12, so we can go 6, yeah, 2, 4, 6, 8, 12 also. All right, so for the first one, it would be 3, 4, because that's the x and the y. So 3, 4 would be right here, and I'm going to label that 3, 4. And then we would have 6, 8. So if I go to 6 and up to 8, there's my point, 6, 8. And then if I have 9, 12, I would go to halfway between 8 and 10 and up to 12, and that would be 9, 12. All right, so we've got that relationship. We could connect the dots, and when we do that, we are going to see that, I think I grabbed something wrong, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 2, 4, 6, 8. There we go. That's supposed to be a 10, and there's my 12. Sorry about that. So forget that one. 9, 12 would be right here. Yep, that looks a lot better. So we can connect the dots. And if we come on down, that is going to go through the origin. What does it mean to go through the origin? Okay, well, that's 0, 0. So if I come up here, what's that mean? Well, if I have 0 cups of flour, I'm going to make 0 cookies. All right, and the unit rate we could put on here too. If I have 1 cup of flour, I'm going to make 1 1/3 dozen cookies. All right, so then it says, does the graph show the two quantities being proportional to each other? And that's going to be yes. The points are proportional because they lie on a straight line. The points do. And the line goes or passes through the origin, which is 0, 0. All right, and then the last one, write an equation that can be used to represent the relationship. Well, we're going to say y is equal to k times x, and k is going to be 1 1/3. So 1 1/3 times x equals y. If we want to say, instead of using x and y and be more appropriate to the problem, this could be d for dozen, and the x could be c for cups, and y could be d. So if I come down here and say, how many dozen? There's my constant, and then this would be times the number of cups. All right, so then our next example, it says below is a graph modeling the amount of sugar required to make Grandma's chocolate chip cookies. So now we're looking at sugar instead of flour. And again, you can't make the cookies without the sugar. So this is going to be the independent variable x, or we could call it c again. And then the number of dozen, we could call that d, but we're also going to know that that's on the y. So down here is independent, and up here is dependent. All right, and when we look at this, we can see that it is proportional. And it says to record the coordinates of the points from the graph. What do these ordered pairs or values represent? Okay, so the coordinates. Well, if we start with this first point, we're at the origin, so 0, 0. What does that mean? Oh, sorry, I'll move it up a little bit. Okay, so that means for every 0 cups of sugar, for 0 cups sugar, there are 0 dozen cookies. So then if we look at the next point, we're at 2, 3. So that means for 2 cups of sugar, there are 3 dozen cookies. And these are just ditto marks, meaning whatever is above it is the word I'm using. Makes things good on shorthand. Okay, so then if I go to the next point, So this point, if I come down, I'm on 4 on the X, and I'm at 6 on the Y. Now I know your lines didn't come in very well. I'm going to just move this and show you on the computer. Ooh, that looks weird, doesn't it? But you can see it a lot better. I promise you that when you do these, I will have clear graphs for you to do, like on your homework and on a quiz. Okay, so this next one we said is 4, 6. And again, for 4 cups of sugar, there are 6 dozen cookies. And then the next one, this point right here, if we come down, that is at 8. And if I go over, I am at 12. So that's going to be 8, 12. Same thing here. It could be 8 cups of sugar for every 12 dozen cookies. And we've got 12. Ooh, I think I did that. No, that's right. Okay, so then 12, 18. So we got 12, 18. So for every 12 cups of there are 8. I'm sorry, every cup. Ooh, 12 cups of sugar, there are 18 dozen cookies. And then the last one is up here. If I come down, I'm right after 15 at 16. And if I come over here, I'm at 24. So for 16, 24, we'll put that one up here, 16, 24. So for every 16 cups of sugar, there are 24 dozen cookies. All right, so if I come down to the next one, Grandma has 1 remaining cup of sugar left. How many dozen cookies will she be able to make? Plot that point on the graph. All right, so, well, what's the unit rate? So this is our X, this is our Y, or it's our C and our D, but it's independent and over dependent. Oh, I said it backwards. Okay, this is the X, this is the Y, so we do Y over X. So K is equal to Y over X, and that's the unit rate. So if we take 3 over 2, that's going to be 1 1/2. It's going to be 1 1/2 dozen cookies for every 2 cups of flour. Oh, I'm sorry, 1 cup of flour. So if I divide 3 by 2, I get 1 1/2. Divide 2 by 2, I get 1 cup of flour. So my unit rate is 1 1/2 dozen per cup. And it wasn't flour, it was sugar. Sorry, the last one was flour. All right, so if she has 1 remaining cup of sugar, she can make 1 1/2 dozen cookies. 1 1/2 dozen cookies. All righty, so then it says, how many dozen cookies can Grandma make if she has no sugar? Well, we've already talked about that. Okay, if she has no cups of sugar, there are no dozen cookies. So it'll be at 0, 0. So that means for every 0 cups of flour, there are 0 dozen cookies. Equals 0 dozen cookies. Yes, there we go. Okay, can you graph this on the graph provided? Yeah, well, we already did. Okay, so it's right there at 0, 0. And then what we call this point? We call this point the origin. All right, we're finished.